yeah, I was going on to think about the way that spirits learn the human body because I feel like they're playing this game of humanity where they're kind of like, oh my gosh, human, they have to eat. Like in the beginning, they were like consuming each other's avatars. They're like, and you're like, no, don't eat my avatar yet. And they're like, no, too late. I want them. And then you consume it, and then they make multicellular organisms over time. They're like consuming other spirits' avatars, and they're like, I'm dominating this gene pool, this tide pool. They're like, I got to get out of it. I need to go on to the next level. And they crawl out of the tide pool. They're like, I'm gonna drag my body up onto the tide pool and get direct sunlight so my skin hardens up so I can get out there and contain my water, my salt water within my body. That's what we are, these amoebic entities that have salt. We carry our salt water around. We don't have to be in it in the ocean. Then the avatar advances, levels up. There's a game called Spore. It's by the guy that makes, was it The Sims? No, not Sid Meier. He does Civilization. I always got Sid Meier and the guy who makes The Sims, Will Wright, because those games were so amazing to me at the similar periods in life. The Sims and Civilization, both great series. Yeah, Will Wright did Spore. Anyway, you can kind of play as an upcoming creature in a tide pool. You get to choose what you eat, meat or vegetable. And I wonder about fungus because I feel like fungus hit our tide pool and was like, had to make that decision. Am I going to eat meat or plants? And some of the fungus ate plant and it became and remained fungus. And some of the fungus ate other fungus and it became meat animal. And that's where animals potentially came from in the evolutionary, maybe. Interesting concept that it all began with the fungus among us. I think about my heart hurt just there. So if your heart ever hurts, which I get my hand like right here, I'll put it here, and like hold, because right here it feels like it's pinched, like it's going to explode, like it's going to like pre-heart attack condition or whatever. Because what's happening, I think there's a lot of heavy metal in my heart, just builds up. You've got to put your hand on it. Well, this is what I do. I put pressure on it and pull it open and just hold it. Oh, I can feel it already gurgling. I don't know if you heard it on the microphone. Yeah. It's like draining. Oh, it feels so good. But it's like, it's afraid to drain the metal or the whatever because it's doesn't want to clog up the arteries or whatever. So it'll give you that pain warning. Be like, I don't want to flush it. But you're like, no. You'll be okay if I hold you open. And it'll like it'll pulse like it would explode. But because you've got pressure on it, it'll pulse and it'll be okay. And you'll feel it dump into your gut. It's just a great detox release. If you ever need to fix your heart. It's a muscle. It's such a good organ. I think it was because I was drinking so much caffeine. Maybe I haven't been stretching my heart a lot. And I got to do that. Feels so good. And then you bend back into the position that would have gave you the heart attack. But you have your hand over it and you're squeezing it. And your body just like digests as normal. It doesn't even hurt. And then just work it like a muscle, man. Can you hear it gurgling? Like a strained or a tense muscle. It's a very vibrant organ. Like it's very squishy, cartilagey. Like it'll bend and flap and compress and expand and twist and bounce and shit. It's really great. Sometimes you can do it just by gently placing your finger on it and feeling it pulse. Just kind of relaxing and breathing with it and it'll like... But I always like I did it on my head too once. I was like, I'm going to have an aneurysm. I felt like my head was going to explode. I think at the time I'd been smoking like overload, eating crap. So I put my hands on my temples and I was like squeezing it, just compressing. And it like, I could feel it like pulsing. And it went like this big explosive that probably would have exploded my brain vessel that I was afraid of. But instead I had it compressed and it just like pulsed out and all this shit drained out. Whatever it was, like metal, it felt like black bacterial fluid. It was waste. Whatever it was like built up in my brain. Probably like, all sorts, could have caused tumor, aneurysm, all the garbage, but it just flooded down my neck. I was like, into my stomach. I was like, yeah, get it into my gut where it'll digest it and destroy it. And it did. And then I always wanted to do it again. I was like, I want that to happen again, but I was never that sick again. So I'd be like, I could still feel like the joy of the pulse, the pulsation, the feeling of like, oh yeah, the compression, like compression blankets and stuff. You just do it to your own body. And, but only if you the feeling of healing, it's like, don't make yourself sick just so you can enjoy healing yourself because of the joy of healing. But I find that fall into that trap sometimes, if it's a trap. But it is also a way to learn. Like in a video game, if you jump off a short cliff and you take 4 damage, your healer can practice their healing skill. If you need to take a little bit of damage here and there, it's kind of like shamanism. Take the poison to get the bonus from the mild drawback relative. Anyway, that was my intro. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Next up, what I want to talk about is spirits, and really, I guess you'd call it discernment. That was the topic that was on my mind before I started the video. Being able to discern, because spirits, they seem to relish honesty, openness, communication, like the good spirits. That's how they are, how babies are, just pure, honest, open. And then you learn over time that you have to discern what information to tell people. And you even find in certain situations, you'll get a great benefit from lying. And that's a tough thing to learn as a human, because it's not a good addiction to acquire, lying. It's not a good sustainable tactic. There are acute positions, obviously, where like the tyrant is looking for the revolutionaries, and they're telling people, I don't know where they are, when they're like lying to preserve their, and then they overthrow the tyrant and create like the American revolutionaries, a wonderful system. I'm sure they lied to get that, to overthrow that system. So that aside, lying is its own thing. That's a whole topic of morality and all that. But discernment is just whether or not you offer up the truth. If you're going to be honest, and sometimes you'd be like, I'm not going to tell you. That's an honest way to not lie. But then they know you're withholding. So there are situations where that's not an option. Again, that kind of tends towards, but just general civil discernment. So important. It's like, can you read the room? And that it's so important, because especially when you learn honesty, and you not only do you learn that it's important, your mind, your brain knows that you embody it, and it starts to become part of what you are. It's very tempting to go all the way more and keep going, because people are really turned on by it. People really love honesty. They really are impressed with the bravery and overcoming the fear, and pushing yourself to be open in ways that are like a child. And that's like so valuable, even though you take your dings and your marks of people taking advantage of it. But as you learn discernment, less and less do people take advantage, because you know when to offer. They say, don't cast your pearls before swine in the Bible. I think that's the thing. You don't always have to answer people's questions, and you particularly don't have to answer them the way they want you to. That's the wonderful thing about being honest. A wonderful thing about being honest is you develop your vision of what reality is, and then when people ask you questions, they're almost all kind of like underneath this, like what your answer is going to be anyway. Like you're going to tell them what you're going to tell them. And you pretty quick can twist their way of being towards where you're going when you're honest. Because the level of confidence just bursts through the roof when you're honest. It's a good thing. And I think what happens is it snaps to the spirits. I think the spirits align with you then, and they sort of, they enweb. I said, I think in the earlier video, they enweb their magnetic field, or they allow your alterations of the field with your behavior now, because they've witnessed your presence. They've witnessed you be honest. They've witnessed you do these good deeds, prostrate yourself amongst humanity and be like, I'm just one of you, but I'm going to do my best. Come join me, or whatever you say. Let's do this together. You create movements of honesty. They like that people are aiming at that, and they'll kind of give you control of their avatar in a way. It's almost like if you're playing a video game and you watch your avatar go do something in the game, you're making him do the thing. You're making him loot all the toilet paper. He's constantly, like in Fallout. I used to play Fallout a lot, and I'd have him pick up all the loot. And a lot of times I'd be picking up toilet paper that I'd turn into, cloth fiber later or whatever. But I had a dream that I was like, or I saw toilet paper, and I had this impulse to pick it up. So it was like my avatar in the game that I was controlling was also affecting my own real life behavior in a subtle way. And I think when the avatar gets so infatuated with you, when these spirits become in love with you so much because you're such a good person, they allow themselves to be changed by your behavior. And that's your thoughts. You can think good things, healthy. You have these thoughts about healing, and just think it. It's like a meditation, and it embodies them. They allow it to change them, and then they become healing spirits. And they'll heal other people and send that information, and then other people have the dreams and things of healing and things like that. So you find this trust barrier with spirits, or this like enwebment. I like the idea of thinking of the electromagnetic web, this magnetic web of fibrous fluency, whatever you want to call it, photons and electrons spinning up and down, and these tiny fermions, just webs of moment of vectors, these like shape patterns. These like things are getting squished and twisted and pulled, and I don't know. That's a whole other conversation as to why reality is densifying the way it's densifying. Maybe it's getting super hot in the Higgs field and it's vibrating at a certain frequency and then cracking open and turning into photons. But then what's causing that underlying vibration? Like, what's under the surface, man? All right, human. Catch you on the flip, brother.